we have items, we have an inventory to put them in, we have a method to put them into the inventory, but we have no method to pick them up yet. So let's talk about that today. It's going to be a quite simple and straightforward way to do it. If you've seen my video on blueprint interfaces and the basic interaction system that I built with that, that's pretty much what we're going to be doing here today. So that way we have, number one, an interaction system built for the game as it is, and number two, we can also immediately easily implement something like a chest, which would be quite nice. So what we'll do is we will start off by going into our blueprints, and we want to make a blueprint interface here, which we'll call BPI interaction. We can just call it BPI interaction, that's fine. The first function that we're going to be adding here is on interacted, which should have a input of a actor, object reference, of course, and this is going to be the interacting actor. So this will be the actor that is doing the interacting, rather than the actor that is getting interacted with. That can be really quite useful. And then the output of this is going to be a bool, interaction finished. We want to check whether or not the interaction we had is successful. For this case, we're going to be adding items to the inventory. If the adding of the item to the inventory doesn't work out for us, we want to be able to send that message back to the player so that the player can do something with that. Now, as you might be able to tell, we are passing in a generic actor reference rather than a specific player reference. And that is because at this point, I don't know if there might be enemies that also want to be able to interact with items and pick them up in our game, right? And I just want any generic actor to be able to interact with this. How are we going to do that? Well, the way we're going to do that is in our interaction system, we're also going to add a second function, and that is just simply going to be get inventory. And this very simply just outputs the inventory. So that will be the inventory component that we have made. So now we have this BP item, which is the blueprint for the data assets that the actual items are referring to. We're not going to be using this because these can't exist in the world, as you remember. If I try to drag these out, like we can't interact with these because these are not actors. Same with the BP item weapon. What we want to do is we want to get the BP world item, which is the actor that can exist in the world that represents the items. And that is where we're going to be implementing these interfaces. So in this one, we're going to go into the class settings and we want to check implementable interfaces. We check for our BPI interaction, and that immediately adds the interface tab here with get inventory and get interacted. And in our overrideable functions, those should also now be added in. This one is going to implement the on interact. So whenever this item gets interacted with, it's going to try to add itself to whatever inventory interacted with it. So let's open this up. It makes us a function for this, and this is actually quite simple. We get a reference to whatever actor interacted with us, because that is what we set up. And whenever an actor interacts with this, we have to pass through that reference. But because we also made a function in that interface to send through an inventory component without needing to know what type of actor this is, we don't need to cast to the player. So this is now a lot more flexible in what we can actually do with it. If we want to have enemies be able to pick up weapons or any item for that matter, we still can do that. They just have to implement that same interface. It's actually quite simple. So we can simply get inventory, and that will return us the inventory of whatever actor is trying to interact with this item. Now, we need to check whether or not this is valid to be sure, because if something that doesn't have an implementation for get inventory is trying to interact with this, that could crash the game otherwise. So if this is valid though, we're just simply going to try to add this to that inventory. So if we get this inventory, we can just say add item. And only if valid is true, we will try to add that item. And the item to add will just be our item data asset in here. So we can just drag that over in there. And now we need to check, okay, so if it actually added the item into the inventory, we also want to destroy the item that's on the floor. Otherwise, we can infinitely keep picking it up, and we don't necessarily want that. So we'll add in a branching node here. And if this is true, added item, then we want to simply destroy actor, and we want to destroy ourselves. If this is false, we just want to get immediately back to the return node. The value for the return will also be the same as whether or not the item was added to the inventory. This can just be generally useful information to have, because if this is false, for instance, if an AI is trying to add something to its inventory, it will be able to see, hey, nothing was added to my inventory, I probably should go like back to base and deposit some item and try again. Something like that. You can program that in. For now though, this is all that it takes to make an item be able to be picked up. Now, in the third-person character itself, which is our player character, we need to implement that same interface as well. So we're going to go into class settings, we'll check for BPI interaction, and here we need to, we don't need to implement onInteracted, really. We want to just implement getInventory. And getInventory is simply going to just return a reference to our inventory components. Now, I'm not going to be using the enhanced input system for picking up items and such for right now. That's not really what this tutorial series is about, so we'll just get a left mouse button event. And when we press that, we're going to do a line tracer from our camera to wherever we're looking at. So we're going to line trace by channel. Our starting position will be our follow camera, get world location, and then our end position will be that same location with the direction the camera is facing, multiplied by a distance. We'll walk through this real quick. So we can get the forward vector out of this thing, which is just the direction that this thing is facing in world space. And we can multiply that by a distance. So let's convert this pin into a float and say that the max distance that we can pick up items at is like 2,500 units. That might be a little bit too much. If we add that to the world location for our camera and set that to being the end, we now have a line tracer that allows us to potentially pick up an item. So the out hit here, we want to break that hit result, and we want to check the hit actor. On the hit actor, we will try to run the onInteracted, and we want to make sure that we choose the message option. We need to pass in the interacting actor so that the items, if we are trying to pick up an item, know what actor they should add themselves to. So we just pass in a reference to self. And then we get a interaction finished. If this function runs, but we don't add anything to the inventory, it will notify us of that with the value of whatever we were returning. This is really all there is to it for adding something to the inventory. That's all we've had to do. So now, what I will do is I will do the debug type, set that to persistent so we can actually see the line tracers for the time being. And if I add this world item, like the rock, for instance, and I play the game, I need to make sure that this rock actually has collision. So for right now, what I'm going to do is not very smart, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the customized collision to use complex collision as simple. So that way it will use the complex collision, which is literally just the wireframe of the model, as the collision here. We do need to have some sort of collision on these objects in order to be able to pick them up. But now the line tracer is actually triggering, but I forgot to set up the inventory constructor. So we don't have an inventory to add something to. So that's why it wasn't being added. Now that I have an inventory, I should be able to pick this up and the item disappears. And going into my inventory, I should now see that I have one rock in it, hopefully. And I do. So picking up items now simply works. Now that we have this interaction system set up as well, it is remarkably easy to also make something like a chest. So let's make a blueprint class here, which will just be a actor, and we'll say BP chest. We will give this chest first and foremost a static mesh, just so that we can see it. I'll just give that like a cube or something like that as its shape. That'll work fine. And then we'll also add a inventory component to it, because we're going to fill this chest with an inventory, and then it's going to drop its entire inventory upon being destroyed. So in the class settings, we're going to again implement our trusty old BPI interaction interface, and we will onInteracted instead of adding something directly to the inventory of the player, what this is going to do is it's just going to spawn in a few actors. Spawn actor from class, and what we'll be spawning is a world item. And here we get into some interesting stuff. So this world item, we actually want to set the value of the item data asset. And maybe potentially you also want to add something like stack size to world spawn items. That's entirely up to you. But you want to set that on spawning. That's the easiest way to do that. Otherwise you need to then set that afterwards and it can just get messy. So if we go back to BP world item, what we can do is in the item data asset, we can expose this on spawn. And that will, if we now go back to our BP chest, you might need to re-add the node, but it gives the item data asset input. So as the item is spawning in, it's giving the value for that specific variable, and it will be able to use that in the construction scripts as a result of that, which is very, very nice. Now, we don't want to just spawn in one thing, we want to spawn in the entire inventory this thing has. So what we'll do is we'll get the inventory component, and we'll get the inventory out of it. And the inventory will just do a for each loop. And here, once again, we're going to break this, and we're going to check whether or not every item has a slot in it at all before we do anything else, just to check whether or not we should even bother. And if there is an item in it, we will then spawn in that item in the world. While we're at this anyway, I'm going to add in a stack size into the world item blueprint as well. So we'll go into the world item blueprint here, and I'm just going to add in stack size as a variable here, because we might as well implement that right now. So what we'll do instead of destroying the actor right away, this is on the uninteracted in the BP world item blueprint, by the way. What we'll do is we'll set the stack size to decrement. And only now if this is less than or equal to 0, will we destroy the actor. So now we have a simple stacking system where we can click on the same item multiple times and its stack will decrease while the stack in my inventory will increase. And this stack size we will also expose on spawn. Because that's the whole reason that we're using this, to be able to have chests drop stacks of items. So we'll get the stack size from our inventory and set that as the stack size for our world item next. And then once all of that is completed, is where we will destroy the chest itself. You can also change this to like a open chest, static mesh, or plain animation or whatever. For now, we're just going to destroy the actor, and the return node should not be after spawning actor. That is a mistake on my part. It should be after the entire loop has been completed. Now, the last thing we need to do is set the spawn transform, where these items should spawn in. And the easiest way to do that is just to split the structure pin. The scale should probably remain at 1. The location, we can get actor location. We split the location structure pin as well, and we might as well split the structure pin for the rotation too, because we're going to be doing something with that in a moment. Split structure pin, the Z value we will just put into the Z value, and then the Y value we will add a random float in range to, something between -200 and +200. Just so that every item spawns in a slightly randomized location around where the chest initially was. And we're going to do the same thing for the X position here as well. Do make sure that you make a new random float on range node and don't reuse the same one, because this will just generate a value once and then use it for both of them. You want these two values to be different. Then for the rotation, you probably want the roll and the pitch to be 0, but you want the random floats again, and we're going to set this to between 0 and 360, so it just randomized how rotated it is around its own axis. And you can make these other two slightly randomized as well. So let's say we set both of those to a randomization of between -20 and 20. Just don't go overboard with these two. And now that we have all that, we can set this chest down somewhere. We can open up its inventory component and construct an inventory, and we can say, hey, I want this to have 5 rocks in it, and then has item to true, might as well. And then I want the other slots to have 10 rocks in it. So we can say 10 rocks has item, sure. And now if I keep forgetting to do this. I probably should set up some automated way to do this on begin play. If I generate myself a inventory, I can still pick up this one rock, and we can see that the rock, if I go back into my inventory, is now in the first slot here. Let's actually lock this so that we can keep looking at it as we play. And now if I interact with this quote-unquote chest, it should spawn in 2 rocks. It spawned them in pretty much the same location, so that's a little iffy. But I can pick up these rocks, and you can see it keeps increasing my inventory size, and you can see in my print screens that it is adding them to my inventory. And after the stack ran out, we now have only 1 rock left, and I can 4, 3, 2, 1 pick that up as well, and now I've got 16 stone in total, which makes sense. We had 1 stone just laying there, and then the chest had a stack of 5 and a stack of 10, so in total that is 16. Which means we can pick up items now. We can even have chests that have items, and in much the same way, if an enemy dies, it can just drop its items like that. Which means effectively we now have a functioning inventory system. The only thing that we really require at this point would be adding some UI to it. And adding UI itself is a bit of a bigger task as well. So we'll be starting with that in the next part. Until then though, if you want to check out the project file as it is right now, there will be a link down below in the description to my Patreon and for YouTube members to download the project file and just play around with it and try to figure out how everything works if you're having any trouble or just want to support the channel. And for the full course, if you're watching this in the future, it should be all up on the YouTube channel already. But if you're watching this shortly after it was uploaded, there will be a link down below in the description to the Patreon where you can find the full course, plus a little bonus episode where we go over and change some things to make some alternative ways to interact with the inventory, which will be a Patreon exclusive episode. And a very big thank you to all of my Patreons. You can see them on screen right now. If you want to help out supporting the channel, there's a link down below in the description to the Patreon page. And a special thanks to my Cave Digger tier Patreons, Sir J. Thomas,